Some of you guys have been bringing up in the comments lately that Mexico has gotten more and more expensive. So today, we're going to be talking about whether or not it's still cheap to live in Mexico.
I've got my Money Talks t-shirt on today.
Yes,
for
you
this
do.
one. So, welcome to Entrepreneur Expat, everyone. I'm Amanda.
I'm Justin.
And on this channel, we talk all things entrepreneurship and expat life. So if you are interested in living in other countries, traveling full-time, global citizenship, and entrepreneurship, making money online, making money globally, then make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. And as per usual, we have presents for you. So for this video, we have two resources that will help you with the content of this video for those of you who want to dive in deeper. The first is our Moving to Mexico guide, which will give you kind of the getting started, the basics of moving to Mexico, so you can download that below. It's completely free. And the second one has to do with money. It's our Make Money from Anywhere guide. Because spoiler alert, yes, Mexico has gotten more expensive. However, there are things that you can do about it. And in that guide, we share about 5 remote work skills that will make you money from anywhere in the world based on our 15 years of experience in digital entrepreneurship. So you can download that below as well.
And make your own economy. Don't depend on anybody else's.
All right, so let's talk about has Mexico gotten more expensive? Many of you have brought up in the comments that Mexico has gotten a lot more expensive than it was 5 or 6 years ago. Newsflash, everything and every country has gotten more expensive.
Yeah, inflation's been huge all around the world, not just in the US and Canada. It's happening everywhere, maybe to a lesser degree here than up there, but it definitely still does exist.
It definitely still exists here. It definitely has hit. Some of you have been telling us that you've been trying to get your residency, and in the consulates, they have told you that you need to show about $9,500 a month. Now, this was someone with a family who was coming down to Mexico. Even as individuals, you're looking at $4,000, and it's going up by 10 to 20% every year.
I have a feeling it's going to start to go up even faster because of the huge influx of people coming from the U.S.
Yes, 100%.
I think after these elections, there's going to be even more Americans here.
Yeah, so we need to have a very frank conversation about money. Now, before we do that, let's talk about what is going on in Mexico that is leading to it being more expensive, because it's not all inflation. Inflation is a part of it, but it's not the whole story.
Yeah, so definitely inflation, number one. A second thing that's caused things to go up in price a lot here has been all of the foreign investment. So as you have Americans and Canadians and Europeans and frankly people from all over the world moving to Mexico because it's an attractive place to live, it's got a good economy, there's jobs, thriving jobs market here. There's obviously beautiful beaches, landscapes, deserts, everything that you want. Great food, absolutely. So a lot of people are investing here, either for their primary residences, maybe they're buying second homes, they're buying investment properties. And we've even seen several projects just in our area from foreign investors with multi-family buildings as well. Like there was actually a unit where we had our gym that I think had 50 or 60 different apartments in the building, and it was like a mixed use thing. There were apartments, obviously the really, really nice common areas. There was a gym, retail space, all that, and that was a foreign investment project. So there's a lot of money being poured in here from people either coming and living or just deciding that it's a really good place to
make
invest.
Some money.
Yeah.
Make some money. The other thing which has to do with this is that Mexico is actually doing quite well economically. Mexico is one of the fastest growing middle classes in the entire world right now, which is usually an indicator that things are going well financially for a country. So typically, if you have more people getting out of poverty and moving into the middle class, it's a pretty good sign that a country is making some moves, making some money moves.
Money talks.
Money talks, right? So Mexico is doing well. Plus, they're making a ton of money with nearshoring, which is bringing in a lot of money into the country. Mexico, some people have brought up in the comments that Mexico's economy is still too tied to the United States as of right now. Yes, we would agree with that. But Mexico has also been making some moves to not just rely on the United States. So they're trying to do business with like the whole friggin' world.
China, Africa,
The rest of
the
Latin
rest of Latin
America,
America,
Europe,
absolutely.
they're really trying to open up and do all kinds of business with all kinds of countries. So there's less of a reliance on the United States, and that seems to be going pretty well for Mexico. So, as Jose Arteaga brought up when we interviewed him, things are getting better in Mexico. So, when things typically start getting better in a country, they start to get more expensive. So, if you're trying to come to Mexico and be like, man, I want to live on $500 a month, you're screwed.
I mean,
Not that
if
kind
you
of
want
Mexico
to
anymore.
significantly lower your costs or your standards of living, and you want to live somewhere where maybe there isn't great internet or infrastructure or paved roads, you can definitely. I mean, even in Guadalajara, you can rent an apartment for $300 or $400 a month.
Yeah, but you can't live off of $500
No,
in
no, but
Mexico.
even what my point is, even at that level, if you are to find something, let's say in this city, for $300 or $400, it may not be in the safest area. You're probably going to have to drive or Uber to really get anywhere. You may not be somewhere that's got like fantastic internet. You might be limited in the options there. And I don't know if I mentioned safety, but safety is also a big concern for foreigners, especially retirees. So it's kind of like you're not going to leave your home country where you're living a nice life in the suburbs and go and live in the ghetto of Mexico, right? You're gonna want to find an area that's as nice or better than where you're currently living.
Yeah,
So by that
you
token,
wouldn't want to live in the hood in your own country. Why would you live in
exactly.
another country?
Yeah. So the idea should be to make more money, not say, well, let me. And of course, you're going to save a lot of money, and we're gonna get into what you do save money on, especially in relation to the U.S. And Canada. But it's important to think about this as an equation of, you might be able to drop your costs of living by 30, 40, 50% or more, but it is a much more expensive Mexico than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Even before COVID, which brings us to the next
Yeah.
part. Part of the reason why Mexico has gotten more expensive is because everyone and their mom started moving here during
It was
COVID.
the only country that was open.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was the only country that was open, and a lot of people did pretty much what I did, what one of our friends did recently, and what a lot of people have done, particularly those with online businesses and remote work. They come to Mexico. They're like, I can make money from anywhere. I'm a digital nomad. This place is cool. I'm staying. I'm not going back. And it was open
Yeah.
during the pandemic.
And
So,
before that, people had this big misconception of Mexico and Latin America in general because people hadn't really traveled much here other than maybe the occasional vacation in Cancun or in Cabo or somewhere else, or doing hopping across the border to somewhere like Tijuana. And they hadn't really had the chance to experience Mexico. But when a lot of people's jobs went remote, or they decided to make either a supplemental income, or maybe they were fired, they were laid off from their job because of everything that happened during the pandemic, and they started their own business, realized they could make money online, came down here because it was a lot cheaper, and they could just have more personal freedom, especially during those trying times. It really just opened up something new in their mind for them that they never thought would be possible. They never thought they'd leave the U.S. before, but that whole era was kind of this pressure cooker, and people were able to experience Mexico for themselves, and then so many more came down here, and then just like Amanda said, they stayed because they really enjoyed it.
So, although Mexico has gotten more expensive, you can still save money on the big stuff, especially when you compare it to the US and Canada. Big thing number one, housing. You can still save a lot of money in Mexico in housing versus the United States. We've done videos on our cost of living in Guadalajara before. I will make sure to link it so you can see kind of exactly what it is that we're spending money on and all the bills. But the next one, right, is food. Has food gotten more expensive in Mexico? Yes, so is housing. But we're still paying a fraction of what we would be paying. We pay a fraction of what our single friends pay in the United States just to feed one person.
Yeah, like I bought a kilo of really good beef. You like that was good beef,
That was
huh? The
good.
one that I
Yes,
cooked.
excellent.
Kilo of beef at the carniceria, which is like the butcher shop right around the corner here. It's 2 blocks from us. And I think I paid, what was it, like $7 or so a pound, $6 or $7 a pound. When I looked up the price for basically the same meat in LA, it would have been about 35 or 40% more expensive, whatever the exact price was when I converted it. So you're still saving potentially 20, 30, 40% or more on food. depending on the type of food you eat, obviously. But I didn't even compare that to what that beef actually was, which was probably like organic, farm raised. Like most of the meat here, it does
It's
not
from
go,
Jalisco.
yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
go through the same industrial process that a lot of the meat does. So if you were to actually compare it with like farm raised, grass fed, organic beef from Whole Foods or somewhere like that in the US, well, then you're probably saving like 60 or 70% realistically, because in the US you have to pay them not to poison the food. So that's a whole other topic. But you're getting, for things like food, you're getting it for a lot less, but you're also getting much higher
Higher
quality.
quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other area where you save a lot of money in Mexico is healthcare. Now, this does depend where you are in Mexico, because if you're going to one of the border towns that are basically catering to Americans, it's not going to seem that cost effective. But if you go to other cities, then you do save a lot of money on healthcare, eye care, dental care.
Plastic surgery. I think Guadalajara is one of the plastic surgery capitals of the world.
I don't know about that.
Oh,
I
well,
think it's
Latin
Medellin. I
America.
think it's
No, besides
Medellin. I don't know
Medellin.
about that.
But no, a lot of people come down here for dental work, for plastic
Yeah,
surgery.
dental, yes.
They want to do the ass, the tits, the whole nine. So not a bad place to do it.
So those are the areas where you're going to be saving a lot of money. And then obviously, you know, if you are American and you're living in another country most of the year, then you get a tax break as well. So that basically covers like the four biggest expenses that people have, which is housing, food, healthcare, and taxes.
Well, and again, consult your attorney. This is not legal advice of any kind, but from our experience, because you're a temporary resident in Mexico, they also don't tend to tax your foreign income. So if you are making money from the US, which is really the only way to do it, you can't really get a job here and work at a competitive rate compared to the local economy, nor will they give you a visa to try to come to Mexico and compete with jobs. So you've got to be making US dollars. And if you are making money from outside of Mexico, at least as a temporary resident, from our experience and from what we've heard,
And
you're
what
not taxed on,
accountants and attorneys
have told us that
Yeah.
you're not taxed in Mexico on that income either. So not only are you able to exclude a good portion of your federal income taxes through the foreign earned income exclusion from your US taxes, you still have to file, but you're able to exclude a good portion of your net income. And Mexico also doesn't generally tax you on that foreign income. So there's kind of a nice double whammy there where you're able to kind of skate around in a totally legitimate way, paying those taxes. So you save actually in both places.
So when you take that into consideration, Mexico is actually extremely affordable and helps you save money in the four big things that cost people the most money. That takes all their money from them. However, and this is a big however, all of the things that we just mentioned are going to get more expensive too. Especially as the years go by, especially as things get crazier in the world, especially as more people move to Mexico. If Mexico keeps doing well economically, that's going to make things more expensive. So who's in trouble? The people who are really in trouble are retirees living off of small pensions. Those are the ones who are probably in the most trouble because that pension probably isn't going to go very far. And we forgot to mention that the US dollar is probably going to lose some purchasing power by the end of the year because they have to make some adjustments to interest rates in the United States, which means that purchasing power is going to go down. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world where people are moving away from the dollar, so the dollar isn't as strong as it used to be. So if you are a retiree and you are literally surviving off of a pension, you're not going to be doing very well. And in fact, those are the ones who probably need to hear this more than anybody, what we're going to say right now. So what can people start doing to start supplementing their income without being tied, like you said, to a local economy in Mexico? Because you're not really going to be making money in the local economy in Mexico. They're not going to give you a job and take it away from a Mexican, and they shouldn't.
Right. I mean, there's two main ways to do it, right? The first is obviously getting a remote job. So if you're in a position where maybe you're already working remote, or you can easily get a job, or maybe a different position within the same company that you're currently working for that's remote, that might be the easiest thing to do, at least in the interim, to get you started. Now, why is that not a great long-term solution? Well, because number one, you really don't have job security anymore. You kind of did 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, but job security in today's modern times is basically non-existent. They just laid off tens of thousands of people in the tech space. We're probably going to do another video about that very soon. There's massive layoffs really across the board in the US. So imagine having a remote job, either from your current employer or going through months and months of hard work to get a remote job, only to find that 6 months later, after you've moved here and proven your income and everything else, you've gotten your visa, now you're in Mexico, all of a sudden you get laid off. Maybe you're lucky and you get a 2 or 3 month severance package, depending on the company and how it was set up and everything. But then what? What are you going to do? Try to find another remote job when remote jobs are becoming more and more scarce?
The other thing about remote jobs, and this is something that we've heard from a lot of you in the community who've been looking for remote jobs, is that remote just means work from home, but it's still requiring you to live in the United States.
Most of them are. And if they find that you're trying to game the system or using a VPN and pretending you're actually in California or you're really somewhere else, ask me how I know that, then you could definitely get in a lot of trouble for that and obviously lose that job very quickly and burn some bridges too.
So remote job is an option if you can find one that lets you live in other countries, but it does come with a lot of downsides, which is one of the reasons we wanted to bring that up, which brings us to the next point, that if you really want to survive in other countries, and not just survive, but thrive, and not just other countries, but in life, stop thinking in terms of jobs. Mm-hmm. We've been wanting to have this conversation with y'all for a hot minute. Stop thinking in terms of a job.
JOB stands for just over broke, because that's what a job is, really. Just over broke. Even if you're living in another country and you can find a job, most likely they're going to say, oh, well, you know what? You're living in Mexico. So even though we were going to pay you $95,000 in Oklahoma or in Texas or in California or wherever else, we're going to pay you whatever the Mexican equivalent of your position would be. So maybe we'll give you like $25K. Is that good? I've actually heard that multiple times from people where they asked their employer if they could move to another country, and they said, yeah, but we're going to pay you based on the wages there.
Which makes sense for them to do, if I'm being honest. I mean, if I was a business owner, I'd do the same thing. If
I disagree, because there's a huge difference between having someone who's a native English speaker, who is born in that country, who's got experience, connections. It's different than trying to hire somebody who might be a like totally different culture fit, who maybe knows the language well, but it's kind of different. I think it's really slimy for employers to do that.
I agree.
Personally.
I agree. However, if they can replace you with somebody else who's younger and they can pay less money to in 3 seconds.
Sure. But economically speaking, it makes sense. I just don't agree with it from a moral, ethical standpoint.
Okay, I see. I'm just thinking about it in terms of economics, in terms of what they would do and why.
Which is a whole other reason why you need to differentiate yourself from everyone else. And don't think about things in terms of a job. Think about things in terms of what value can you bring to this marketplace and how do you capitalize on that value? Because if you're working for someone else, let's say even you've got a nice cushy 6-figure salary, which doesn't go very far in most of the US anymore. But let's say you're making $100,000 a year. That employer is making at least 10 times what they're paying you. Which means if you're making $100K, let's say as a software engineer.
If they know what they're doing.
If the company knows what they're doing and they're not like one of those startups who really is just living off of the graces of investors.
If they don't know what they're doing and they're bleeding out money, you're on the chopping block.
Exactly. But if they know what they're doing, they're making 10x what they're paying you. So they must be getting at least $1 million of value out of your work. So why not capitalize on some of the difference and actually build your own thing and get clients and create a system and a structure that allows you to make money based on your knowledge and your experience, not necessarily based on the day-to-day doing.
So we're in what's called a knowledge economy. And basically what a knowledge economy is, it's that, and I was reading about this, what was that book I was reading the other night? How to Manage Oneself?
Oh, Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker, yeah.
They kept talking about how we live in a knowledge economy, which basically, it's like your mom says, work with your brains, not your hands. Mm-hmm. So all the jobs where you're like, work with your hands or trade your time for money, they're all being taken over by AI. Sorry. It just is what it is. That's the other issue that we're dealing with here, is like you can't go be a video editor because AI already got that covered.
Yeah, we have one piece of software that costs us $20 a month. We upload a video into that software, and it'll automatically find the clips that are most likely to go viral on TikTok and Facebook and everything else. And we proved that it worked. We posted one video on TikTok. I got like 350,000 views on that one video, and there's others that did similarly
Look
well.
how fast we're growing this YouTube channel, and we don't have a video editor. AI is doing all of it.
Yeah, AI, we use
ChatGPT, all
we
that
use
stuff.
Descript where we can edit it with text, and it takes us 10 minutes of video to do.
So you have all these changes going on in the economy that are pushing everybody into a knowledge economy. A knowledge economy is basically what value you can provide with your brain, not your hands and not your time. So that being said, if we know that we're moving into a knowledge economy, then you need to start making some shifts and some moves, because entrepreneurs, they do very well in knowledge economies. People who are experts in certain things, they do very well in knowledge economies because they just teach what they know to other people. People who can build software, they do well in a knowledge economy.
Because it's scalable.
Because it's, well, that's a whole other conversation, scale. So all of this is to tell you guys, please stop relying on jobs, right? Especially jobs in other countries, that it's not an easy thing to do. They're not going to not pay their own citizens to give you a job, which is great. They're looking out for their own citizens when they do that.
I wish
as
the
they
US
should.
would do more of that.
No, that's, yeah, I digress.
Technically, I digress.
We digress. So stop thinking in terms of jobs, because it's really just limiting you, and really start thinking in terms of how can I move into a knowledge economy where I can teach my expertise or use my expertise, provide value out into the marketplace, and then I am paid for that value in terms of money, because that's how economies work. That's how capitalism works. And if you have all these things working against you, like AI or technology or all these things that are taking over, the only thing you have left is your brain to make money off of.
And your personality and your unique ability to influence people around you.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we're doing, right? It's all about how do you create content? How do you get attention? How do you turn that attention into income?
And we can help you do that with your own knowledge base, with your own skill set. So if you need any help in figuring out what this looks like, sign up for a complimentary call below. Just FYI, it's for first timers only. Some of you have been booking multiple calls with us. It's for first timers only, so that we make sure to give everybody a chance and move quickly, because sometimes we get booked out 2 weeks in advance.
Well, that's what we have about Mexico and the cost of living, and some of the updates here about if Mexico is still cheap. We hope you enjoy this content, and we really look forward to seeing you on the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Helps us out a lot. And also make sure that you get all of the latest videos and notifications. Sign up for a call below if you're interested in learning more about how to do this for yourself, and we'll see you very soon on the next one. Bye now.